Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the pattern of signals dancing across her holographic display, her coffee long forgotten and growing cold beside her keyboard. The massive array of deep space telescopes had been picking up unusual readings for the past 3 hours, and something about them made her skin prickle with unease. "Dr. Martinez, you need to see this," she called to her colleague, who was dozing in the break room of the Lunar Deep Space Monitoring Station. "These patterns, they're not natural." The summer evening of July 15, 2157, had started like any other at the station. The usual background hum of distant stars and the occasional ping of space debris had lulled many of the night shift workers into a familiar routine. But at 23:47 Earth Standard Time, everything changed. The first ships emerged from light speed just beyond Saturn's orbit. Their arrival was so precise, so coordinated, that it could only be intentional. Massive vessels, each one larger than Earth's largest cities, decelerated in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent material unknown to human science, and their designs defied conventional physics. Within minutes, every major observatory and space monitoring station across Earth and its colonies had their instruments trained on the visitors. Military vessels moved to defensive positions, though everyone knew they would be hopelessly outmatched if the aliens proved hostile. The message arrived precisely 1 hour after their appearance. It manifested simultaneously on every major communication device across the solar system, translating itself perfectly into each local language. "Greetings, children of Sol. We are the hegemony, guardians of civilized space. Your species has been monitored since your first radio signals reached our borders. The time has come for your integration into the greater galactic community." Sarah's linguistic training set off immediate alarms. The message was too perfect, too precise in its construction. As she analyzed the subtle nuances of the translation matrices, she detected something that others might miss. Layers of meaning that spoke of absolute control masked beneath benevolent phrasing. The hegemony's invitation continued. Join us, and share in the prosperity of 10,000 years of stable rule. Accept our guidance, and your species will never know want or war again. The alternative is isolation, as we cannot permit unaligned worlds to threaten galactic harmony. In the emergency meeting that followed, Earth's leaders debated their response. Many advocated immediate acceptance, pointing to the overwhelming technological gap. Others called for resistance, despite the impossible odds. But Sarah had a different suggestion. "We need time," she told the United Earth Council. Their message, it's revealing more than they intend. They expect either immediate submission or defiance. Let's give them neither. Let's engage them in diplomatic talks while we study them. Every conversation, every interaction will tell us more about who they really are. The Council agreed. Humanity would neither submit nor defy, yet. Instead, they would watch, learn, and prepare. As the first diplomatic vessels approached Earth, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to be tested in ways they never imagined. But perhaps, just perhaps, being underestimated would prove to be humanity's greatest advantage. Professor James Okoro rubbed his tired eyes as he studied the quantum interference patterns on his laboratory screens. For 3 weeks, he had been analyzing the hegemony's faster-than-light communication signals, looking for something, anything, that might give humanity an edge. The diplomatic talks continued in Geneva, but everyone knew they were buying time. Running another simulation, Professor, his graduate student, Maijong, entered the underground facility carrying fresh data crystals from the lunar monitoring stations. "Something's odd about these transmissions," James muttered, taking the crystals. "They're too perfect, too ordered. It's like they've never encountered signal noise in their entire history." Mai loaded the new data into their quantum computer array. The holographic display erupted with streams of light, each representing different hegemony communication channels. As they watched, the patterns aligned into precise, geometric formations. Then something unexpected happened. A random surge from their experimental quantum processor caused a momentary spike in the observation array. The hegemony signals flickered, distorted, and for a fraction of a second, completely vanished. James leaped from his chair. "Did you see that? Play it back." They spent the next 12 hours analyzing the anomaly. What they discovered was astonishing. The hegemony's supposedly unbreakable FTL network had a critical weakness. It couldn't handle truly random quantum interference patterns. Their entire civilization was built on absolute order, predictability, and control. They'd never encountered quantum chaos theory, James realized. Their technology is advanced, but it's built on principles of perfect stability. They don't know how to handle unpredictability. While the diplomatic corps kept the hegemony representatives occupied with endless cultural exchanges and bureaucratic procedures, humanities scientists worked frantically in secret facilities across the solar system. They modified their quantum computers to generate the specific type of interference that disrupted hegemony communications. Dr. Sarah Chen joined their team, her linguistic expertise proving invaluable in understanding the patterns within the hegemony's transmissions. "Their entire society is structured like their language," she explained. "Rigid, hierarchical, unable to adapt to unexpected variations." Earth's leaders began formulating a daring plan. Small stealth ships, equipped with the new quantum disruptors, were constructed in hidden asteroid facilities. Military personnel trained in complete radio silence, using old-fashioned light signals to avoid detection. The hegemony's representatives grew increasingly frustrated with Earth's diplomatic delays. They demanded meetings with higher authorities, unaware that each interaction revealed more about their weaknesses. Their rigid protocols and inability to deviate from established procedures became increasingly apparent. During one particularly tense meeting, a hegemony official finally lost patience. "You will join us, or face the consequences. Our empire has stood for 10,000 years. We cannot be opposed." James, watching the broadcast from his lab, smiled slightly. 10,000 years of order," he murmured. "Let's see how they handle a little chaos." The pieces were in place. Humanity's response to the hegemony's ultimatum would soon begin, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the stealth vessel Nightshade, her heart pounding as she watched the countdown timer. 17 ships, scattered across as many star systems, waited in perfect synchronization. The hegemony had given Earth 48 hours to submit their final answer. They would receive something entirely unexpected instead. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Jackson whispered. In the darkness of the bridge, illuminated only by essential displays, the crew maintained complete emission silence. The hegemony's massive command ship hung in orbit above Geneva, its crystalline structure gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, their representatives prepared to receive Earth's submission. Their sensors, designed to detect conventional energy signatures, remained blind to the stealth ships hiding in the shadow of nearby comets and asteroids. "Professor Okoro, status of the quantum disruptors," Martins asked through their secure laser comm system. "All units showing green," his voice crackled back. "Remember, we'll only have a few minutes before they adapt. Make them count." The timer reached 0. "All ships, execute Operation Starbreak," Martinez commanded. 17 quantum disruptors activated simultaneously. The carefully crafted chaos they generated rippled through the hegemony's FTL network like a tsunami through still water. Across multiple star systems, their communication relays began to fail. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The massive hegemony command ship suddenly lost contact with its fleet. Emergency signals, visible as pulses of light across their crystalline hull, flashed in patterns of increasing urgency. In Geneva, the hegemony representatives' translators failed mid-sentence. Their perfectly ordered diplomatic protocols dissolved into confusion as contradictory orders arrived from different command centers, each trying to assert control in the absence of central coordination. "Second phase, initiate," Martinez ordered. Earth's conventional forces emerged from hiding, not to attack, but to establish a defensive perimeter. The message was clear. Earth would not submit, but neither would they strike the first aggressive blow. The hegemony's response was predictable. They attempted to call in reinforcements. But with their FTL communication network in chaos, their carefully coordinated fleet movements became impossible. Some ships jumped in at the wrong coordinates, others received garbled orders and remained in position, waiting for clarity that wouldn't come. Professor Okoro's voice came through the secure channel. "It's working better than we hoped. Their entire command structure is fragmenting. They've never experienced anything like this." Dr. Chen, monitoring the hegemony's emergency broadcasts, added her analysis. "They're trying to switch to backup protocols, but those are even more rigid than their primary systems. Each attempt to restore order is making the chaos worse." The hegemony command ship launched a series of small vessels, presumably trying to physically carry orders to their scattered fleet. But Earth had anticipated this. Clouds of microsatellites, released hours earlier, created a maze of conflicting sensor readings, making navigation without the FTL network nearly impossible. As the first day of Operation Starbreak drew to a close, humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They had fought back against the hegemony without firing a single shot, but Martinez knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when the hegemony recovered from their initial shock and revealed just how far they would go to maintain their control. Commander Elena Martinez guided her ship, Shadow Dancer, through the dense asteroid field of the Kuiper Belt. Her small fleet of 12 vessels had spent the past week converting these frozen rocks into something unprecedented. Mobile bases that appear identical to natural space debris on hegemony scanners. "Contact approaching," her sensor officer reported. "Hegemony Dreadnought. Designation Eternal Order, moving through Sector 7. Elena smiled as she watched the massive warship pass within 10,000 kilometers of their position. The hegemony vessel's sensors swept past their hideout without a flicker of recognition. Their hubris was their weakness. They never expected their prey to hide in plain sight. "Mary," Elena called through the encrypted channel. "How's our latest surprise coming along?" Mary Sato's voice came back, filled with barely contained excitement. "You're going to love this, Commander. We've completely reprogrammed 3 of their automated defense platforms. Next time they try to dock, they're in for quite a shock." The strategy was working better than anyone had hoped. Instead of facing the hegemony's overwhelming firepower directly, humanity had scattered into countless small units. Each operated independently, striking at supply lines, communications, and automated systems before vanishing back into the vast darkness of space. "New transmission from Central," her communications officer announced. "The hegemony just lost contact with their entire defense network in the Pluto sector. They're dispatching repair crews." "Perfect," Elena responded. "Signal the other units. Time to implement Protocol Ghostwalker." Across the solar system, human vessels emerged from their hiding places just long enough to be seen before disappearing again. The hegemony's mighty warships found themselves chasing shadows, burning precious fuel and resources in their increasingly frustrated pursuit. Mary's team of programmers had discovered another crucial weakness. The hegemony's automated systems were designed to be unhackable through sheer complexity, but they had never encountered Earth's specialized viral algorithms. These programs didn't try to break through the hegemony's defenses. They simply convinced their systems that everything was normal while subtly altering their basic functions. "Commander," Mary called, "you need to see this. The Eternal Order just tried to engage their main weapons array. The targeting systems are showing them nothing but empty space, even when they're looking directly at something." Elena watched through long-range cameras as the massive dreadnought fired its planet-killer weapons at empty coordinates, while a convoy of their own supply ships passed nearby completely unnoticed. The hegemony's response to this humiliation was predictable. They began replacing their automated systems with living operators. "They're adapting," Elena noted, "just as we planned." Every manual operator they assign is one more person who can make mistakes, one more mind that can be fooled by our deceptions. The war had become a battle of innovation against tradition, flexibility against rigid strength. As Elena watched her fleet disappear once again into the camouflage of space, she knew that humanity's greatest weapons weren't their ships or their technology. It was their ability to adapt, to think differently, and to turn their enemies' strength against them. Dr. Sarah Chen stared in wonder at the holographic figure floating above the quantum communicator. The being before her resembled a crystalline tree, its branches swaying in an unseen wind. After 3 months of fighting the hegemony, humanity had received an unexpected message through their quantum channels. We are the Arxeans, the being's thoughts translated directly into their minds. We have watched your resistance with great interest. You are not alone in your struggle against the oppressors. Admiral Martinez, present for this historic meeting, stepped forward. You've fought them before. For centuries, we have existed in the shadows between their worlds. The Arxean responded. We adapted, became invisible to their sensors, learned to survive. But never have we seen anyone challenge them so openly, or so effectively. The meeting took place in a secret facility beneath Europa's ice. As they talked, more revelations emerged. The Arxeans weren't the only ones who had noticed humanity's resistance. The microscopic Zen Collective, masters of biotechnology, had been secretly sabotaging hegemony ships for generations. The stellar nomads, energy beings who travel through solar winds, had been gathering intelligence on hegemony movements for centuries. Why haven't you coordinated your efforts before? Sarah asked. The Arxean's crystalline form shimmered. The hegemony's control of faster-than-light communications made coordination impossible. But your quantum interference technology has changed everything. For the first time, we can communicate without fear of detection. Through Sarah's linguistic expertise and humanity's quantum network, an unprecedented coalition began to form. Each species brought unique capabilities to the alliance. The Arxeans shared their advanced stealth technology, developed over centuries of hiding. The Zen Collective offered their biotechnology, capable of transforming entire ships from within. The stellar nomads provided intelligence gathered from their silent observations. Together, Sarah realized, we can do more than just resist. We can win. The Alliance's first joint operation targeted a hegemony supply line. Arxean stealth technology concealed human ships, while Zen biotech disabled the hegemony's weapons from within. The stellar nomads provided precise intelligence about patrol patterns. The operation succeeded without a single shot fired. The hegemony cannot comprehend cooperation between different species, the Arxean explained during a strategy session. Their empire is built on dominance and submission. The idea of equals working together is foreign to them. Sarah watched as representatives from each species contributed to planning the next phase of resistance. The hegemony's perfect order was being challenged not just by human unpredictability, but by the combined creativity of multiple species working in harmony. They called us children of Saul, Sarah remarked to Admiral Martinez as they reviewed the Alliance's growing strength. But they never understood what that meant. Our sun gives life to countless different species on Earth, each playing its part in a complex ecosystem. We learned cooperation from our very beginning. The war had evolved into something the hegemony had never faced, not just a rebellion, but a transformation of the very galactic society they had tried to control for so long. Admiral David Chen walked through the holographic fleet surrounding his command center on Phobos, Mars's largest moon. Each ghostly ship was a masterpiece of Dr. Yuki Tanaka's holographic technology, indistinguishable from real vessels on any known scanning system. The hegemony's pride will be their downfall, David said to his assembled staff. They're desperate for a decisive battle, something they can understand. We're going to give them exactly what they expect to see. Dr. Tanaka adjusted her holographic controls, and the illusory fleet grew larger. The light-bending technology we developed with the Arxeans makes these projections perfect. Even their quantum scanners will register these as real ships. The plan was audacious. For weeks, they had been gradually building up the holographic fleet, making it appear as if Earth's scattered resistance forces were finally gathering for a desperate last stand at Mars. The hegemony's surveillance satellites reported exactly what they were meant to see: a massive concentration of human and allied ships. Message from the Zen Collective, Lieutenant Park announced. Their biosensors confirm the hegemony is redirecting 40% of their total fleet strength toward Mars. They're taking the bait. David watched as real-time intelligence from their allies painted a picture of the hegemony's response. Massive battle groups were abandoning their patrol routes. Supply lines were being left with minimal protection. The rigid military doctrine that had served them for 10,000 years demanded they crush any large-scale resistance immediately. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on overwhelming force, David explained to his officers. They can't ignore what appears to be a gathering threat. Their own protocols demand they respond with maximum strength. The stellar nomads provided constant updates as the hegemony fleet approached. Through the quantum communication network, David coordinated with Commander Elena Martinez's hidden forces and the Alliance's various species. Everything had to be perfectly timed. Dr. Tanaka. David called. Initiate Phase 2. The holographic fleet began to move, executing complex battle maneuvers that would have been impossible for real ships. The hegemony's advance slowed as their tactical computers tried to analyze the seemingly chaotic movements. They're launching long-range scans, Lieutenant Park reported. The Arxian sensor scramblers are holding. They still can't tell these ships aren't real. The hegemony fleet pressed forward, their formation perfect, their coordination flawless. They were about to learn that perfection could be a weakness. As they committed fully to the attack, the holographic human fleet began to perform increasingly erratic maneuvers, forcing the hegemony to constantly adjust their approach. They're fully committed now, David observed. Send the signal to Captain Patel. Operation Shadowfall can begin. As the hegemony's mighty armada prepared to crush a fleet of phantoms, the real battle was about to unfold in a completely different sector of space. David allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes, the greatest victory was making your enemy see exactly what they expected to see. Captain Sophia Patel stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Stormbreaker, watching as her joint human Arxian task force emerged from their quantum-shifted space pocket. While the hegemony's main fleet attacked phantoms at Mars, their real target lay before them, the central communication hub of the entire empire. Status of hegemony defenses, Sophia asked, her voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Minimal. Her Arxian liaison, Crystal Song, responded through their shared mental link. The stellar nomads confirmed they've drawn away 90% of the local patrol fleet with false energy signatures. The hub hung in space, like a massive crystalline spider web, its strands pulsing with light as they carried commands across the empire. This was the heart of the hegemony's power, the central node that maintained their perfect order across thousands of worlds. Signal from Professor Okoro, her communications officer reported. Quantum disruptors are calibrated and ready. We'll only have one shot at this. Sophia nodded, remembering the countless simulations they had run. The hub's defenses were designed to resist any conventional attack, but they had never faced anything like what was coming. The combined knowledge of 5 species had gone into creating this moment. Begin the approach, she ordered. Zin infiltration units, you have authorization to proceed. Microscopic vessels, invisible to hegemony sensors, had already been seeded throughout the hub's structure by the Zin Collective. At Sophia's signal, they began their work, subtly altering the hub's biological components from within. Multiple incoming transmissions, her tactical officer announced. The hub is detecting system anomalies. They're beginning emergency protocols. Perfect, Sophia smiled. Just as Dr. Chen predicted. Execute Phase 2. The Arxian ships revealed themselves first, their crystalline forms resonating with the hub's own frequency. As the remaining hegemony defenders turned to face this threat, human vessels emerged from their stealth positions on the opposite side. Quantum disruptors at full power, her engineer reported. Ready on your mark. Sophia took a deep breath. Professor Okoro, Dr. Chen, all our solutions working together. For Earth and for freedom. Initiate final sequence. The attack unfolded like a symphony. Arxin ships broadcast interference patterns that matched the hub's resonant frequency. The Zin Collective's alterations began cascading through its biological systems. Human quantum disruptors generated waves of controlled chaos that overwhelmed its processing cores. The hub's defenses are collapsing, Crystal Song announced. Their perfect order is breaking down. Across the galaxy, the effects were immediate and dramatic. The hegemony fleet at Mars suddenly lost all coordination, their ships falling into confusion as contradictory orders flooded their networks. Colonial worlds, long held in check by constant surveillance, found their restraints suddenly lifted. Message from Admiral Chen, her communications officer called out. The hegemony fleet is in complete disarray. Individual commanders are either retreating or trying to establish independent control. Their chain of command is shattered. Sophia watched as the mighty hub, symbol of 10,000 years of oppression, went dark section by section. Send word to all Allied forces, she ordered. Operation Shadowfall is complete. The chain is broken. 3 months after Operation Shadowfall, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on neutral space station Unity. Around her, representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the circular chamber. Some had been part of the resistance. Others were former hegemony worlds finding their own path forward. The Articles of Galactic Cooperation are ready for review, Sarah announced to the assembled delegates. She couldn't help but smile as she saw familiar faces in the crowd. Admiral Martinez, Professor Okoro, and Captain Patel sat alongside their alien allies. The crystalline form of the Arxian Elder shimmered as it addressed the assembly. For 10,000 years, the galaxy knew only one way: submission to perfect order. Humanity showed us there was another path. The document they had created was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of enforcing uniformity, it celebrated diversity. Rather than demanding submission, it encouraged cooperation. Each species would maintain its independence while working together for common goals. The quantum communication network has been redesigned, Professor Okoro reported. The new system is decentralized, protected by randomized protocols that no single power can control. Every species will have equal access. Commander Elena Martinez, now serving as Earth's security advisor, added her own update. The former hegemony fleet has been completely reorganized. Those who chose peace have joined the new Galactic Defense Coalition, where they work alongside their former enemies. Power is distributed, preventing any single group from dominating. Mary Sato's team had worked with the Zin Collective to create new safeguards. The network now adapts and evolves, she explained. Like life itself, it grows stronger through diversity and change. Sarah watched as former hegemony administrators, their rigid postures gradually relaxing, engaged in actual dialogue with species they once considered inferior. The biggest surprise had come when several hegemony worlds requested Earth's help in developing more flexible and adaptive societies. Your victory was not in weapons or strategy alone, the stellar nomad representative observed, its energy form dancing like aurora. It was in showing the galaxy a better way to exist. Order through cooperation, not control. The Assembly's first vote was unanimous. The Articles were adopted, establishing the new era of galactic civilization. The former hegemony territories transformed into a network of independent systems, each free to develop their own path while maintaining peaceful relations with their neighbors. There will be challenges ahead, Sarah addressed the Assembly. We'll face conflicts and disagreements, but we'll face them together, growing stronger through our differences rather than afraid of them. As she looked out at the gathered species, humans, Arxians, Zin, stellar nomads, former hegemony worlds, and dozens more, Sarah remembered that first message from the hegemony, calling humanity children of Sol. They had been right, in a way they never understood. Like their sun, humans had learned to nurture diversity, to help different forms of life flourish together. The galaxy would never return to the rigid order of the past. Instead, it would grow and evolve, each species contributing its unique strengths to a civilization greater than any single power could create alone. Humanity had not just survived, they had helped create something entirely new. The real challenge, Sarah concluded, begins now. We have our freedom. Let's see what we can build with it.